Kesha Williams adjusted the loose strings of the instrument she had found in the trash 3 weeks ago and took a deep breath. At 9 years old, she already knew when someone was completely underestimating her. "I understand perfectly, sir," she replied with a calmness that made the producer frown, uncomfortable with the unexpected maturity of this dirty barefoot child. 2 hours earlier, Kesha was sleeping under an awning when production assistants found her singing for coins. They immediately knew they had found comic relief for the show. "We'll put you at the end," said producer Richard Brennan. "After all the talented kids have performed." What he didn't know was that Kesha had grown up on the streets watching, learning, memorizing every detail of how the world worked. She knew exactly why she was there and what role they expected her to play. In the last 3 years living on the streets since losing her grandmother Dorothy, Kesha had developed the ability to see through the masks adults wore. "Can I ask you a question, sir? Do you have children?" The question caught him off guard. "I do." "2 girls, why?" Kesha smiled, carefully storing that information. Backstage, assistants ran offering snacks and services to the other children, while Kesha remained seated on the cold floor. When she tried to approach the snack table, an assistant pushed her away. "Sorry, sweetie, but these snacks are only for the official participants." Richard approached the group of talented children, completely ignoring Kesha. "You are going to represent the best this country has to offer." Ashley, a blonde girl of about 12, noticed Kesha sitting alone. "Dad, why's that girl here?" Her father replied, lowering his voice. "She's here to show the contrast, so that you can shine even brighter." Kesha heard every word and felt pure, controlled anger. Her mind flashed back to her grandmother Dorothy, the only person who believed a poor black girl could be anything in this world. Dorothy had been a gospel singer who taught Kesha not only to sing, but to use music as resistance. "Music is our secret weapon, child. They can never take away what God has put in our voices." After Dorothy died of cancer, Kesha ended up living on the streets, carrying years of rigorous vocal training. "Hey, girl, do you even know any songs?" Richard called. "I know a few," Kesha replied, strumming her guitar. Richard laughed loudly. "What kind? Street music?" The other kids laughed along, but Kesha just smiled. "Can I ask you a question, Mr. Richard? Did you study music?" Richard looked offended. "Of course. I have an MBA in entertainment management from UCLA. Kesha mentally filed away this information. What Richard didn't know was that hidden in her torn backpack. Kesha carried a letter from Dorothy revealing family connections that would transform the program. The letter explained that Dorothy had been one of the first black women to graduate in music composition from Juilliard in the 1960s and had been the personal mentor of James Mitchell, the current CEO of the television network. "If you ever need help, go to him. But remember, don't ask for charity. Show him what you're capable of first." It was then that Kesha noticed an older man watching discreetly. Gray hair, gold-rimmed glasses, elegant posture. Their eyes met briefly. The man approached slowly. "Excuse me, may I ask your full name?" "Kesha Dorothy Williams," she replied, deliberately emphasizing her middle name. The man stood motionless, his eyes filled with tears. "Dorothy Williams was your grandmother?" James Mitchell felt as if he had been punched. Dorothy had died 3 years ago, and he hadn't even known she had family. "Where have you been all these years?" "On the streets ever since she died." "Do you sing like her?" "She taught me everything I know." James understood immediately. "Can I do you a favor?" "Actually, can I ask you a favor?" "Don't interfere. Let them do exactly what they plan to do to me, and when they try, record everything." The stage lights came on as Kesha stepped into the center. Richard whispered to his assistants. "Remember, activate the faulty sound system when she starts singing." Kesha adjusted her guitar and played the first chords with precision that made professional musicians sit up straight. Richard signaled and the sound system began producing a deafening hiss. "Technical problems," Richard shouted. "What a shame, but we'll have to end it here." But Kesha didn't stop. She stepped away from the microphone and began to sing without amplification. Her voice, trained by years in noisy subway stations, cut through the air. She sang Amazing Grace in a version that blended traditional gospel with classical techniques. Every note was perfect, every phrase charged with emotion. When she finished, the audience erupted in deafening applause, rising to their feet. James Mitchell took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Mitchell, executive director of this network, and I need to tell you who this extraordinary girl really is." Richard turned completely pale. Kesha Dorothy Williams is the granddaughter of Dorothy Williams, one of the greatest gospel singers in this country, who was my personal mentor for over 20 years. Meanwhile, the producers brought this child here not to celebrate her talent, but to publicly humiliate her. It was all filmed. The cameras found Richard sweating. "Richard Brennan, you're fired from this network." The audience booed fiercely. James knelt beside Kesha. "Your grandmother would be incredibly proud of you. She always told me that music is our secret weapon, and that the best remedy for prejudice is excellence. That cannot be denied." The video went viral in less than 24 hours, reaching over 50 million views. James created the Dorothy Williams program, offering full music scholarships to talented children from underprivileged communities. He and his wife, Margaret, formally adopted Kesha. 6 months later, Kesha performed at Carnegie Hall, raising over $5 million for the program. 2 years after the episode, now 11, Kesha released her first album and was nominated for a Grammy. At the ceremony, she carried the same broken guitar, now restored. "This guitar taught me that our true strength comes not from what we have, but from what we do with what we have." Today, at age 13, Kesha divides her time between advanced music studies and artistic direction of the Dorothy Williams program, which has benefited over 1,000 children. "My grandmother always told me that our gifts are not just to elevate ourselves, but to build bridges so that others can rise as well. The lesson remains powerful. Underestimating someone based on their appearance is always a mistake that comes at a high price. True talent doesn't ask permission to shine.